Good morning. Today we will be dealing with new literatures, Commonwealth, post colonial, and subaltern. What is new literature? Britain had taken control of many regions and ruled many parts of Africa, Australia, Bangladesh, Canada, and Caribbean. It had also gained control over countries such as India, Malaysia, Malta, New Zealand, Pakistan, Singapore, South Pacific Islands, and Sri Lanka. Since new literature deals with the places that have once been colonized, the literature of these countries are also called as post colonial literature. New English literature is a body of literary writings that reacts to the discourse of colonization. It often involves writings that deals with the issues of decolonization or the political and cultural independence of people formerly subjugated to the colonial rule. What are the main concerns of new literatures in English? Race, class, caste, nation war and peace, social conditions, gender oppressions, alienation. Let us talk about Commonwealth. Commonwealth is a traditional English term for a political community founded for the common good. The noun Commonwealth, meaning public welfare, general good, or advantage, dates from the 15th century. The recurrent motives are misuse of power, exploitation, and alienation, as well as post colonial society. Commonwealth literature is to promote the writings of those who might not get attention. The term Commonwealth was first used by Oliver Cromwell in 1649. Famous Commonwealth writers are given below. Post colonial. Post colonial literature is literature by people from formerly colonized country. It often addresses the problems and consequences of the decolonization of a country, especially questions relating to the political and cultural independence of former subjugated people and themes such as racialism and colonialism. Post colonial fictional writers deal with the traditional colonial discourse either by modifying it or by subverting it. In Orientalism, in 1978, Edward Said analyzed the fiction of French writers such as Henri de Balzac, Charles Baudelaire, and Lautréamont, exploring how they shaped and were influenced by the societal fantasy of European racial superiority. He pioneered the branch of post colonial criticism called colonial discourse analysis. Now let us discuss about the characteristics. Appropriation of colonial language. Post colonial writers have this thing they like to do. They take the language of their colonizer and turn it on its head. A writer from the Caribbean, for example, may write a novel or play in English, but he or she may twist the English around. Write in dialect, make the language spoken instead of written, and pepper it with native phrases and terms. It's still English, but is a different kind of English. So, why does the post colonial writers do this? Because it is a way for them to challenge the authorities of the colonial language. Let's discuss about colonialism. For many cultures around the world, colonialism was massively traumatic thing. In fact, the effect of colonialism was so deep that even after independence, many countries and cultures continued to suffer from its effect. Saying about colonial discourse, discourse is a collection of narratives, statements, opinions dealing with certain topic. So colonial discourse, as you might guess, is the collection of narratives, statements, and opinions that deals with the colonized people told from the perspective of European colonizers. So one of the goals of post-colonial writers is to attack these colonial discourse and saying about rewriting history. European colonizers often thought that the people that they colonized didn't have a history before the Europeans enlightened them. The colonizers thought that the colonized people had no culture and had made no contributions to human progress and were ignorant. So, from that perspective, colonialism was a wonderful thing for them. The post colonial writers didn't like this version of history. It's a version that cast colonizers as heroes, as rescuers who have saved everyone from ignorance and darkness. So, post colonial writers set about writing history from their own perspective, showing how colonialism was actually a pretty violent, terrible thing. More importantly, these writers also show how history is a matter of perspective and there is always many perspectives. Subaltern. Subaltern, meaning of inferior rank. It is a term adopted by Antonio Gramsci to refer to those working class people in Soviet Union who were subjected to the hegemony of the ruling classes. Subaltern classes may include peasants, workers, and other groups who are denied access to the hegemonic power. Since the 1970s, the term subaltern denoted the colonized people of the Indian subcontinent. Rodney Hilton, A.P. Thompson, Eric Hobsbawm in England, and George Rood and Albert Soboul in France and were the main spokesmen of this new trends. It was Ranjit Guha introduced this in India. The historians of subaltern studies started at the University of Sussex and argued history, so far written, include only the history of the dominant group of every society, and it was time to write the history of the common people. The first volume of this series was published under the editorship of Ranjit Guha, Subaltern Studies 1, Writings on South Asian History and Society in 1982. The term subaltern and subaltern studies entered the vocabulary of post colonial studies through the works of Subaltern Studies group of historians. The end. Thank you.